Today at Sound Connections, we're going to explore the theme of the accidental founder. We're going to have a guest. It's going to be Sondre Pedersen. He is the co-founder of Mintix, a blockchain ticketing system that we have developed here on the Kipple Entertainment. I hope you get some perspectives on how it is to be a new founder. Oh, guys, I've been looking forward to this episode. It's with a couple of my friends, a couple of my colleagues, and as most of probably know by now, we have some episodes that's interviewing industry leaders, and then we have some episodes interviewing ourselves, and probably not industry leaders, but I think we're on a journey to become something. And what we're going to talk about today is something really interesting, Mintix, which is one of our companies, which is a blockchain-based ticketing system. And Sondre here, who is the CEO of Mintix, we're going to talk about your journey and sort of where we are now, and it's going to be the overall theme of the accidental founder, because today is going to be really fun, I think, because it's been a project I've been extremely passionate about. So Sondre, who are you? Where do you come from? Just a brief introduction to you.
Yeah, I'm Sondre. I'm 26 years old, and I've been doing a lot of different stuff over the years, and tried out some different studies, found out it wasn't for me. And then I suddenly got into the whole blockchain Web3 space with learning more about how crypto works and NFTs.
Yeah.
And just seeing a potential for the future.
And that's sort of where we met. So you, Jonah, you almost need to tell the story. Like, how did we meet Sondre?
Yes, so I mean, I met him a good couple of years before you, but we worked together at a bar for many years. And yeah, you did go to some school, but at some point you just kind of got very into all the techie savvy stuff that I don't really know anything about. And then me and you, we had a conversation about how interesting all this Web3 and crypto stuff is. And then I just briefly mentioned that, hey, I know this guy. We were actually roommates also, sort of. You lived upstairs in the upper apartment.
In the old town.
And then we just, we brought you in for a coffee and...
Yeah, and because, to give some context to why Mintix started, I was a trip in LA in February of 2022, doing some stuff. I was attending a wedding and then doing some sessions. And then I had a lot of meetings with industry professionals there, and everyone talked about NFTs, and everyone talked about, all these kind of music NFT projects. And honestly, I didn't really understand why that was a thing. Like, I just don't understand why that would be something that were worth anything, or people would actually put worth into it. What is shown later is, wasn't really any worth, but that's a different conversation. But what frustrated me is that excitement about new technology with no real application, in my opinion. So it's kind of like, there got to be some like practical use case that we can do something about it. So we kind of like had that conversation about Sondre. I'm like, oh, let's invite him in and have a conversation. And you came by our small office at that time, and can't even remember what we talked about.
Well, yeah, the thing was that we were supposed to just look at ways for Capella to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to the technology, and see if there was any ways for you guys to get into it. If that be streaming or actual NFTs or something like that. And then we just kept on talking about what can we use this technology for? What should you guys be looking at?
Yeah, and I think that's where the conversation is like, okay, so what can we actually use it for now if we want to venture into it? And we've quickly concluded on ticketing. I think as we're speaking and doing this podcast today, like that is one of the only real, like practical use cases in the music industry where you can use it. So it's like, okay, let's do it. And I had started I've started one technology company before that failed, but I had some experience of how to approach it. And that's sort of just what we did. We defined a project. We got some investors that believed in, using NFTs and blockchain for ticketing. And then we started from scratch. We didn't really know anything. Of course, we knew a bit about the music industry and we knew a bit about the technology, but besides that, we didn't know much. So the way I see it, and I like to be a bit provocative with my words, but we tricked you into becoming a founder.
Yeah, you kind of did, but I'm happy you did.
Yeah, it's good because I think I knew what it took to be a founder because I've been pursuing this full time for 5 years, and I think I was trying to be honest about what it took, but
I think you were trying to be honest, but at the same time you said that it was something that you would kind of have to experience yourself.
Yeah.
You couldn't just take anyone else's word for it.
Yeah. And what's really interesting in this is because you previously to this had no ambition of becoming a founder.
No, I wanted to hopefully just continue what I was doing at the time. I stopped working at the bar. I stopped my studies. I was just sitting at home and working my own hours, just finding out what was happening in the whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
And just working mostly nights and just sleeping long and then staying up for hours and hours on end. And
How did you make money from that?
well, I made some money it was a lot of luck. It was, for example, I could buy into one project, crypto project, and it would just do well, and then I could sell some of it.
Yeah.
And it was the same with some NFTs. I found some projects that I thought was cool. I just wanted to test it out, but just for a couple dollars, and it paid off.
That's cool. So we try to take that knowledge of your knowledge of how the technology was moving and how it could be used and how you could, integrate it with other things. And we built Mintix. And as we said, we built we got some investors, built a small first product. Fast forward to today, we've been going on for 14 months or so, and have like a product launched. It's the first company in the Nordics that's doing this, and one of actually the few companies in the world that's venturing into this space. We've gotten some more investors. We've gotten a very good team. And we're like the start of the journey, but far enough to like proving that we can actually do something. So recently we actually won an award for Mintix. So Startup of the Year at the Music Tech Conference in Bergen. Startup of the Year within what I don't quite know, but it's something to do with like Norway, the Nordics. There's some different companies from different countries and an international jury. But nevertheless, there's like an industry recognition that what we're building has a potential and a purpose.
Yeah.
But then again, me as the least tech savvy guy. So for the listeners that don't maybe necessarily understand anything about blockchain or crypto or anything, maybe one of you guys could talk a little bit about. So what does potentially the blockchain technology contribute to the ticketing industry? Like what's the actual problems that we are trying to solve?
It's an interesting question, and I just wanted to start with actually commenting one thing. It has nothing to do with crypto. Yeah, and that's good. Yeah, so it's good to know, and thank you for asking that question. Mm-hmm. We're using blockchain as technology. If you can just briefly explain the technology, then I can explain the industry application.
Well, it's when you say cryptocurrency or blockchain or NFTs, most people just think of it as one thing, and that's crypto.
Yeah.
But it's all about the technology that it's built upon. And so blockchain technology, that is what's underneath. And it's kind of like, you can view it as a book of transactions where everything can be viewed. And if something is being transferred from one person to another, it's going to be in this book, and it can't be altered. And so to just speak in simple terms, you have very much transparency, and it's can't be hacked in that way, and so you won't have any fake tickets, and you can have a better understanding of who are your actual fans if they have been to your show, and you can show that you have the tickets.
Yeah. And now we're venturing into the industry application, and we've been around, like, there's so many applications with this technology in the music industry, but the storytelling we're doing now is that the primary purpose for us, like, having a relevance as a ticket company, is that through blockchain technology, we can enable venues, promoters, and artists having access to the secondary market. What that means is when you buy a ticket, that's called the primary market. That directly from a ticket service, from Ticketmaster, whatever, it's a primary sale. You buy that ticket from the service provider. If it's a very popular show or you can't go, you want to sell that ticket to someone else. That is called a secondary market. And how the industry is kind of set up right now is there's some primary market providers, probably know them, Ticketmaster, blah, blah, blah. And then you have the secondary market providers who are like either platforms such as TicketSwap, or it's like in Norway you have Finn, like basically just a public marketplace, or you know a friend and you send them money, transfer them money.
Or you just post it on Facebook.
Yeah, and that's called the secondary market. The primary issue, well, there's a lot of issues, but the primary issue that we're addressing is that the artists, promoters, and venues see none of that revenue. So up to 20% of popular shows, those tickets are resold, which means there's a lot of tickets, you know, in big shows, there's thousands of tickets that are being resold, and the people who created the worth, the content of what you're buying tickets to, sees none of that revenue at all. So by using blockchain technology, we can tap into being primary platform as anyone else, but also tap into that secondary sale revenue. What that means is that these creators that makes these shows see money they have never seen before. That's a huge argument of why this is important.
Yeah.
For the customer, the audience, actually having some security in the trade, so you can have a secure platform or marketplace where you can sell your tickets is also really important. And then there's multiple other aspects that we'll talk about. I think I also talked about it with the podcast with Josh Greenberg. It's about fandom. So we believe as a company, and I think in general, most of the thought leaders in the music industry think about fandom as being the next thing in the music industry. And it's basically back in the days when you were a fan, you could buy a CD on LP, and you could, you know, really buy a lot of things from your favorite artist and contribute to that economy. When streaming came in, a lot of that disappeared. Now in going back into, especially utilizing Web3 or blockchain to get into communities or drops or like exclusive material as a fan that you can access, and that you can do that through our tickets as well, where we can be, let's call it the onboarding process into those utilities of blockchain. Gets a bit complicated.
Yeah.
But what we're trying to say is we believe that we have, or the technology and our service upon that technology has a much better solution than what is existing today. Does that make sense? Enough explanation?
I'd say so.
Cool.
Yeah.
So this episode is obviously not just about Mintix. It's really about you, or taking you as an example for what we're doing. So Sondre, you have been the CEO of a company, and what that means we can also talk about. But basically, your responsibility have been leading Mintix. Has that been overwhelming for you?
Yes, very. If you would have asked me just a couple weeks before we even started Mintix, if I was ever to become a CEO or of some company, I would have just laughed and said, no, that's not me.
Yeah.
And to be honest, to this day, it's still a weird feeling to have that much responsibility, but it kind of grows on you, and you learn that it's not so much about what you see in the movies about the title CEO, and it's more just you take responsibility and you make some decisions. And
yeah.
And we do a lot of those decisions as a team. Because I'm not qualified for a lot of the stuff that we do, but we have a very qualified team. And so we have people that knows something, and that makes it easier for me to accept that if someone comes with a decision about something, then I can agree with them because I know that they are the best in their field.
Yeah, and I think that's really the point, because what we have had some talks about recently is about you as a CEO, because I think, you know, we've talked a bit about imposter syndrome, about, you know, why am I here? Am I qualified? And one of the really important talks we've had is you don't need to be perfect. Like that picture you have of that, you know, CEO from a movie, you don't need to be that. And what you can be as a CEO is you can be the one who drives the decisions and drives the momentum of the company, but use all the resources available around you to do it. And Mintix, at times, is a quite large team. Like, you know, you have around, just local at this office, we have 5 people working on the company. And, you know, when we have developers and our development team, like we're up to like 12, 13 people that are involved in the project. So it does require a lot from you, because at the end of the day, if something needs to get done, it's you.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. One of the things that's also, I think, important to talk about is also the money side. So how has that been financially for you, being the CEO of Mintix for 14 months?
Yeah, I had some money saved up, and I could use that for basically paying for all of my necessary bills in the beginning. And that was from all of my crypto stuff. And eventually the market started going very much down.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I guess everyone has seen that. But so it was kind of lucky that I got to sell most of my stuff while it was still in a relatively good market. But so I managed to live off that for a while. And then just recently I started taking out a small salary, and that was perfect timing. And so it's been kind of like the American way of living with the smallest amount possible while starting up.
Yeah.
And it's been a challenge, but it's definitely worked out.
Yeah, because that is a thing we at Capella, like, we're based in Norway, but we have multiple nationalities represented in the company. And I think we at least very much American when it comes to the startup mentality compared to like how Norwegians normally think. Of course, we try to have security, and we try to, allocate budgets for salaries as much as we can. But the reality of it is, if it's a risk, and we're in it together, and that does cost a lot of your own personal funds to take that risk. So
yeah, and I also think it's important for founders to realize that the more money you want to take in salary, the more money you have to get in from investors, and you're gonna lose a bigger share of the company.
Yeah.
And
so at the end of the day, like, we believe in it so much, we don't want to just get a lot of investors early on at very low valuation and then miss out on that opportunity. Of course, it needs to be a balance.
Yeah.
But so Sondre, Capella right now, we're starting other companies, and we still have focus on Mintix, obviously. But there's other people coming in the same situation that you came in 14 months ago. If you were to give them any advice, starting new companies, anything that you thought like, oh, I wish I knew, or maybe prepare them a bit mentally, like, do you have something you would say to them?
Well, I think one of the most important things is to surround yourselves with people that fill your gaps. And so there can be tons of stuff that you don't know anything about. And a lot of that stuff is going to come gradually by doing and being taught by others. And some of the stuff you don't even have to know that much about. You can know that it's happening, but you don't have to understand why. Because someone else is going to have an education, or they're going to have a lot of experience within that specific field. And if you trust them, then you don't have to do it for yourself.
I think that's a great tip and advice, because I think in general with entrepreneurs, or especially music industry, when starting labels or managements or whatever, there's like one or two people, and they try to be everything. And now Capella, after summer, we're going to be over 20 people, and I still feel like there's multiple things we don't have covered, like 20 different individuals with 20 different backgrounds and educations, and we still have stuff we don't have covered.
Still have gaps to fill.
So how do you think that you as a single person or a couple of people are able to take on all of that and do it perfectly? So I think that's a great advice. I think that's what we're talking about a lot right now.
Yeah. So, and always have someone around you to talk about stuff as well. So if you have a hard time and if it's getting too much for you, then be honest about it and let the people you work with know. And most likely, like in my cases, whenever I've felt that way, I've just told you guys at the office how I'm feeling, and it's been a great help. And one thing is that you get it off your chest, but also you would be surprised to see how much the people around you are going to step up and help you get to where you need to be.
Well, number one pro tip, don't do it alone. Don't do it alone.
Don't do it alone.
Yeah. Okay, we've spoken about you, we've spoken about founders. We'll just use a couple of minutes explaining to the audience what Mintix, like what is happening in the future, because I think we'll follow this company, you know, through multiple episodes and the journey there. So we are the place right now where we've launched a couple of products. It's live in the market right now. We're using exclusive partners to actually test the system, but it exists, and we just won Startup of the Year, and I think that was based on the level of impact that the technology in our system could have in the industry. But what's happening moving forward? What are we focusing on?
Well, right now we're gonna have to get some more capital to keep on developing the platform.
Yeah.
And we have a couple of crucial stuff that we need to get in place before we can actually go out to just random customers. We have some shows with Capella right now, and that's great for testing. But to get out into the market, we need to hide the blockchain stuff a bit more.
Yeah.
And
What does that mean, hide the blockchain? I think that's interesting.
well, so what we're doing, without getting too nerdy, is we're using a hybrid wallet that's kind of in the background, so you won't even know that there is a wallet that you interact with the blockchain with.
And wallet is where the NFT is stored?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
the plan is to make it so that you just log into our service using either email like Google, or you can use Twitter, Facebook, whatever social media you have, and then it will be generated a wallet in the background for you. So when you purchase a ticket, it's just gonna look like it's there in an app.
Yeah.
But there's so much more going on in the background.
Yeah.
And then if I can comment on that, what that basically means for us non very tech savvy people that don't really know what it is, it's that it's, you know, it's so user friendly that, you know, the general public will be able to use this system, and they don't necessarily need to know that it has something to do with blockchain or anything.
Yeah, so it's a long journey, and I think there's definitely no security in whether or not we'll get success. I think it's a really interesting project. We believe in the technology, we believe in the team, but there's so many factors to find whether or not we'll have success. But nevertheless, like, this is why Capella is here. We're here to take the big risks and start these companies in order to be innovative in the music industry and create new opportunities. And hopefully Mintix is going to be a great success. If it's not, we're going to exist for a long time. And we're going to have a lot of goes at this. I think this is going to be a really interesting thing.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Sondre. And thank you, Jonah, for joining me as a casual co-host today.
Hey.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And what we talked about today is the accidental founder. It's about that I believe that a lot more people can be founders than what they believe they can actually be themselves. I think there's this belief that it needs to be a very certain special type, 1 out of a million kind of type that becomes this founder. I believe a lot more can become that, but they need to be encouraged and put into systems where they can actually develop that skill and develop that mindset. And hopefully we'll see a lot more in Capella through that. But thank you so much, and see you next time.